Miss Robin from the Ridgewood Public Library, and today I'd like to share with you the life, the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. My first book is about Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which we celebrate on the third Monday of every January. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was not a president or a general. He didn't start a new religion, but he gave our country something wonderful. He gave us a dream. To understand this dream, you have to know about things that happened in our country long ago. Long ago, African Americans were slaves. The Civil War set them free, but they did not get civil rights. They were not allowed to marry. They were not allowed to vote in many places. They could not get good jobs. Many people disliked them because they had darker skin. Some states passed laws to keep African Americans apart from other people. This was called segregation. African American people could not eat in the same restaurants as white people. African American people could not marry white people. They could not sit in the same parts of a bus as white people. They even had to go to separate schools. Martin Luther King Jr. grew up with segregation. He was born in Atlanta, Georgia in 1929. He wanted to change many things, but he didn't want to hurt anyone. He had deep religious feelings. After college, he became a minister in Montgomery, Alabama. He also began studying the wisdom of Gandhi. Gandhi was an Indian teacher and leader. He believed the world could be changed without violence. He told his followers to meet hate with love. Gandhi said people should not obey unfair laws, but they should not fight either. Dr. King wanted to try these peaceful ways of pushing for change. In Alabama, the laws said African American people had to sit in the back of the bus. One day in 1955, a woman named Rosa Parks said no to this. The police arrested her. Dr. King said the law was wrong. He called people to stop riding buses. The bus company started losing money. Soon enough, the law was changed. Then 4 African American students sat at a white people's lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina. No one served them. Some people called them names, but they kept sitting for 4 days. Some people sat with the students to show their support. Dr. King led a march to cheer for those students. Soon, African Americans stopped obeying segregation laws in many cities. Dr. King was arrested for giving them the idea. Dr. King wrote to newspapers. He explained why he was leading marches against segregation. He said all Americans should have the same rights. Thousands of people agreed with him. They too began to march. Even children joined these marches. Alabama Sheriff Bull Connors put many of these children in jail. In 1963, Dr. King led a march to Washington, D.C. There he gave his greatest speech. He told people of his dream. He said he had dreamed of a world that was fair. People of all colors lived together in peace. A crowd of 250,000 people heard him and began to dream too. The dream spread across America. Millions of people began working for equal rights. Sometimes police beat them up, but they never fought back. They followed Dr. King's rule, meet hate with love. It worked. Slowly, segregation ended. In 1964, new laws were passed. They promised equal rights to all Americans. 4 years later, in 1968, a man shot Dr. King. Millions of people cried. What would happen to Dr. King's dream? Had the bullet killed that too? Dr. King was buried. 4 days later, Senator John Bill Conyers of Michigan had an idea. America should have a holiday to honor Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Martin Luther King Day began in 1983. It is on the third Monday of January. People across the country get together to remember Dr. King's dream. It's a good day to start living the dream too. It's a good day to reach out and make new friends. And remember the life and the legacy of Dr. King. The next book I'm going to read is called Martin's Big Words. The book is written by Doreen Rappaport with illustrations by Brian Collier. Everywhere in Martin's hometown, he saw the sign, whites only. His mother said these signs were in all southern cities and towns in the United States. Every time Martin read these words, he felt bad until he remembered what his mother told him. You are as good as anyone. In church, Martin sang hymns. He read from the Bible. He listened to his father preach. These words made him feel good. When I grow up, I'm going to use big words too. Martin grew. He became a minister like his father, and he used big words he had heard as a child from his parents and from the Bible. Everyone can be great. He studied the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi. He learned how the Indian nation won freedom without ever firing a gun. Martin said love when others said hate. He said, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. He said together when others said separate. He said peace when others said war. He said, sooner or later, all the people of the world will have to discover a way to live together. In 1955, on a cold December day in Montgomery, Alabama, Rosa Parks was coming home from work. A white man told her to get up from her seat on the bus so he could sit. She said no and was arrested. Montgomery's black citizens learned of her arrest. It made them angry. They decided not to ride the buses until they could sit anywhere they wanted. For 380 81 days, they walked to work and school and church. They walked in rain and cold and blistering heat. Martin walked with them and talked with them and sang with them and prayed with them until the white city leaders had to agree they could sit anywhere they wanted. He said, when the history books are written, some people will say there lived black people who had the courage to stand up for their rights. In the next 10 years, Black Americans all over the South protested for civil rights. Martin walked with them and talked with them and sang with them and prayed with them. White ministers told them to stop. Mayors and governors and police chiefs and judges ordered them to stop, but they kept on marching. He said, wait, for years I have heard the word wait. We have waited more than 340 years for our rights. They were jailed and beaten and murdered, but they kept on marching. Some Black Americans wanted to fight back with their fists. Martin convinced them not to by reminding them of the power of love. He said, love is the key to the problems of the world. Many white Southerners hated and feared Martin's words. A few threatened to kill him and his family. His house was bombed. His brother's house was bombed, but he refused to stop. He said, remember, if I am stopped, this movement will not be stopped because God is with this movement. The marches continued. More and more Americans listened to Martin's words. He shared his dreams and filled them with hope. He said, I have a dream that one day in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. After 10 years of protests, the lawmakers in Washington voted to end segregation. The white-only signs in the South came down. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. cared about all Americans. He cared about people all over the world, and people all over the world admired him. In 1964, he won the Nobel Peace Prize. He won it because he taught others to fight with words, not fists. Martin went wherever people needed help. In April 1968, he went to Memphis, Tennessee. He went to help garbage collectors who were on strike. He walked with them and talked with them and sang with them and prayed with them. On his second day there, he was shot. He died. His big words are alive for us today. And so, as we celebrate Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, please remember his big words. Thank you.